We return on Southeast Texas Weekly to talk about this McKinney scenario. Once again, it's it's an emotional thing for a great many people. What has happened in McKinney? I mean, maybe the question becomes, should it have turned out to have been this emotional? Are we overreacting as a people, as a nation, as a part of the media? Will Robbins with the State Republican Executive Committee joining us, Michael Lindsay and Parsons, and our Beaumont City Councilman W.L. Pate here. What do we think, guys, about McKinney? Could this have been handled much better?
Well, of course it could have.
Could have been handled much better. How so? How so? What are your immediate observations when you see this this situation blow up as it did?
I think, my immediate observation when I saw it is, one, I think our country's gotten too used to, with all these incidents with police and stuff that we've seen over the past year and a half. We've gotten so used to the news and everything showing it as it's happening, and we rush to assumptions. We don't take times to listen and find facts and understand what's going on.
I can tell you there's a great deal of conversation at 12 News in particular saying, how do we handle these? What is the point at which we're contributing to a scenario? I mean, and it's plausible the national media does far worse than we do here. What do we think about this question of the national media and how it handles these questions of these emotionally or racially charged incidents?
The video is just hilarious with the officer running in, doing the tuck and roll, bouncing up on his feet as he's going in. I mean, you just knew it was going to be good video when it started out like that.
Yeah.
I think they might have drug tested the officer afterwards, see how he was doing.
Well, and we don't want Starsky and Hutch in our political discourse every week, and it seems that we have that from New York to to Charlotte to the a great many of these recent.
I would bring it back here locally with what we're doing locally and the leadership that we have locally. And I think we're doing a lot of really good things here, and I think Jimmy Singletary's doing good things. I think our city council's doing a wonderful job. The Citizens Advisory Committee and some of the other groups.
Yeah, and are we not just as liable to end up in one of these same situations as Baltimore is because of this being such a delicate matter in America in 2015, though?
Well, as Michael was so kind to say, Chief Singletary does a wonderful job. I mean, he really emphasizes training. When you train over and over and over again, you're going to instill it in your mind that if something happens, this is what you're going to do. Now, that situation in McKinney was unfortunate. When you step back and look at this individual had made 2 suicide calls that day before this happened. Well, a lot of times people don't realize all the stress that these officers go through. They act like they just woke up, got in their patrol car, and you're the first person they pulled over. Like nothing happened all day long. And I think what we need to do is temper our response until we get all the facts. As we know at Ferguson, that hands up, don't shoot was made up. I mean, when the Department of Justice comes back and says that wasn't true, but there are people still saying it today because it fits their political agenda, and that's what we've got to get away from. And that's why I can honestly say that Chief Singletary's done a great job training our guys because he really believes in it and believes in the police department.
Do people always come into this with some kind of political view, agenda? They start off with the presumption of this, or this happened or that happened?
I think that's human nature to go into situations because your politics and your political views come from your life experiences and your personal philosophy. So you're going to go into every situation, whether you realize it or not, with an inherent bias. And I think it's important, especially when you're dealing with these situations that we've been seeing, to put that bias aside when we're still gathering the facts and not letting your emotions come over you.
As much as I truly hate to do this, I mean, does that not come back to the media at some level? Maybe the reporting of this from the Dallas stations, the reporting of this from the Dallas Morning News, and then the networks that subsequently moved into McKinney. I mean, is that where it starts with a scenario like this?
The publicity obviously starts with the media, but I think it comes back to locally. We have people here that work very hard every day with community relations. And as long as we continue to work on and foster those local community relations and those ties, I think we can avoid a Ferguson here. And sure, people make mistakes every day, but I think the community tends to be a little more forgiving when they see people out working like our first responders do.
Well, we can and we have to. Not so much from this scenario, which thankfully has been far more peaceful. But if you think in terms of a Baltimore or a Ferguson, we can and we have to here.
Well, one of the things we also need to do a little homework and realize that what happened in Ferguson, what happened in Baltimore, what will happen somewhere else in some other city is who's behind the organizing. It's one thing when some local citizens go, you know, that's just not right. That's one thing. But when you see the same person in Baltimore, in Ferguson, in McKinney, and you go, hey, this guy got his own TV show? I mean, that's how organized some of these people are. And that's what they're there for, to stir up activity against police officers. And that's not a good thing.
Well, the new Black Panther Party is in McKinney, Texas now, marching. Too much? An inflammatory scenario? What do you think, Michael Lindsay?
I think it's a little bit out there. This incident was not all that violent, and it was pretty outrageous, but not violent. And I'm not sure how much protesting in the street we really need in McKinney, Texas, to straighten this situation out. And I think the police chief up there got out ahead of it. Was fair and honest. There's no cover up there.
Police chief certainly immediately tagged the police officer with wrongdoing, though, and happily accepted his resignation quite quickly.
Well, it's, you know, in a situation like that, police officer realized he had made a mistake, made an error, and says, okay, I don't want any more publicity on my police department. He's worked there for 10 years. I don't know this
What was
guy.
his error? What was the police officer's error that led to, and I opened that up, you know, almost tongue-in-cheek, but what was his error that forced his resignation?
Pulling a gun's a bad idea.
Always a bad idea.
Well, and
Around a bunch of kids.
it's,
When there are two other officers standing by.
But you don't believe that that with the others rushing up behind him, that he had reason to fear for his safety?
I'm
Yes.
not seeing reasonable fear or apprehension for your life.
well, one of the things too is when somebody can hold up a phone and take a picture of every single thing in your life, literally, if they're sitting next to you, whether you're sitting at Carrabba's or Papa Do's or wherever, your whole conversation, you may not even know that they're doing it. And in a situation like this, here's something going on, and somebody's taking a picture of
Yeah.
it. And it's hindsight is usually 20/20.
Yeah. New subject coming up in just moments here on Southeast Texas Weekly. Stay with us.